Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a super fascinating and honestly universally relatable dynamic that pretty much every long-term relationship hits at some point. I'm talking about the mystery of the missing butterflies. You know that exact feeling, right? That intense passion, that tunnel vision you get when you first fall for someone? Well, over time, that electric feeling inevitably starts to fade. And when it does, we're left scratching our heads wondering where it went and how on earth we're supposed to get it back. The source material we're analyzing today offers this incredible paradigm shift on how we view love, action, and keeping that spark alive. Honestly, it completely flips our normal assumptions totally upside down.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever caught yourself just waiting? Like, are you passively waiting for that magical spark to suddenly return before you put any real effort into your relationship? Think about it. Be deeply honest with yourself for a second here. It is so incredibly common to fall into this pattern where we assume the feeling just has to strike us like lightning before we can act romantic again. We sit back, go through our routines, scroll on our phones, and quietly wonder why the magic isn't magically fixing itself. We're essentially treating passion like some lost item we're just waiting for someone else to find. Which leads us to Section 1, the waiting trap.
So, this passive trap is incredibly common, and here's what it usually looks like in real life. A wife might sit there thinking, he constantly offends me with his words, or he doesn't give me any of his time or attention anymore. So, what does she do? She waits. She waits for him to magically change his behavior. She waits for the careless insults to stop. She waits for him to suddenly, spontaneously start paying her more attention. And most of all, she waits for those old feelings, the ones from the very beginning of the relationship that felt so effortless, to just naturally spell back up inside her. But, well, they don't. And that waiting, it breeds this deep, quiet resentment that slowly poisons the connection. It creates a massive emotional stalemate.
The core issue behind all of this waiting is the belief that we must feel love before we act. We basically treat love like the weather, something that just happens to us, completely out of our control. If it's raining outside, we stay inside. If we aren't feeling the butterflies today, we don't act lovingly. We just wait around for a sunny day. But our source material points out that this passive waiting is a massive, fundamental misunderstanding of how long-lasting, truly resilient love actually operates. It's totally backwards.
Let's move to Section 2, the honeymoon phase secret.
To really grasp why this is such a fundamental misunderstanding, we kind of have to travel back in time. I want you to think back to the first 6 months of your relationship. You know, that golden window. Remember the mindset you had before almost every single date? You were probably a little anxious, stomach in knots, but you were also absolutely bursting with energy. You were completely, entirely hyper-focused on the other person. Your whole goal was discovering exactly what made them tick. During that honeymoon phase, our behavior is entirely different because it's defined by proactive attention. Think about it. If your new partner just offhandedly mentioned a book they liked, what did you do? You didn't wait. You bought it and read it immediately so you could talk to them about it. If they mentioned a specific dish they wanted to try, you found a restaurant that served it and booked a table for the very next date. Why did we do this? Because we were constantly asking ourselves one single question: how can I make them happy? Being deeply in love makes us so open. We're intently listening to every word and constantly planning little ways to delight our partner. It was entirely proactive. We were literally hunting for opportunities to act.
All right, moving to Section 3, life's reality check. But then, time passes. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast. The difference between those two phases is literally night and day. In the first 6 months, you're proactive, listening, planning, totally focused on your partner's joy. But as long-term life sets in, the paradigm flips entirely. We become reactive. We start waiting, and our focus shifts entirely from our partner to the heavy, overwhelming burdens of daily life, financial debts, or physical sickness. That proactive energy gets completely swallowed up by the reactive demands of just surviving the week.
And hey, let's be totally fair to ourselves here. The daily friction is immense, and it compounds so fast. Raising multiple children, that takes a monumental amount of physical and emotional energy. The financial pressures, the accumulating debts, the mortgage, these are incredibly stressful weights to carry. Facing physical illnesses drains you of whatever energy you have left. And then there's just the endless, repetitive cycle of daily household chores that never seem to stop. It is perfectly natural that the initial romantic spark gets buried underneath all of this. You are utterly exhausted. The friction is real, and it demands your attention constantly. Because of all that friction, we have to swallow a pretty necessary dose of reality. It is simply naive to expect spontaneous passion amidst this daily friction.
Waiting for spontaneous feelings of love to just magically overcome these massive daily problems, it just doesn't work. You cannot expect to feel the exact same effortless butterflies you felt at 20 when you're now balancing a mortgage, 2 toddlers, a stressful career, and a leaking roof. The environment has completely changed, which means the mechanism for creating passion has to change too.
Which brings us to section 4. Actions create feelings.
So the crucial point is this: single paradigm-breaking realization. Acts of love lead to feelings of love. Really notice the order of those words. It doesn't say feelings lead to acts. It says your actions generate the feeling. You must physically act first, put the energy out into the world, and the emotional response will follow. It's exactly like jump-starting a car. The battery is dead, the spontaneous feeling is gone, so you have to provide the external spark through action to get the engine running again.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This sounds like an overwhelming amount of work when you're already so tired. But it doesn't require grand, sweeping, expensive gestures. The source highlights incredibly simple, highly accessible everyday acts. Buying a bouquet of cheap flowers on a random Tuesday, picking up their favorite candies while you're already standing in line at the grocery store, booking a table at a local restaurant, or maybe something a bit more adventurous like going horseback riding together on a Saturday. It could be as wonderfully simple as bringing home some cotton candy, or just ordering a sushi dinner so they don't have to stress about cooking after a long day. You don't need a massive budget, you just need intentional, simple, physical actions.
This is the paradigm shift we've been building towards. We have to completely separate the myth from the reality. The myth is that I must feel love first, and then I will act. We wait for the weather to be perfect. The reality, and this is absolutely crucial to understand, is that you must begin acting first, even if you currently feel absolutely nothing. Even if there is zero passion, zero energy, and zero inspiration in your heart at this exact moment, you have to initiate the action. You do the small thing anyway. You buy the candy anyway. You do it specifically to create the feeling that you are currently missing.
And that leads us to section 5, the upward spiral. Let's see how this builds and compounds into something beautiful. Step 1, you push past the exhaustion and you execute one of those small everyday acts of love we just talked about. You initiate the spark. Step 2, because of those actions and the positive reaction from your partner, the actual feelings of love begin to spark and return. Step 3, once that feeling returns, it brings with it a sudden surge of energy, joy, and emotional resources. You suddenly aren't quite as tired anymore. And step 4, with that renewed energy, you and your partner can confidently turn around and face life's real problems, the debts, the friction, the stress, together as a unified team. The simple, physical action ultimately solved the complex emotional and life problem.
When you reach the top of that spiral, the transformation is incredible. As the source beautifully describes it, you realize all over again that you love each other. The inspiration fully returns. You feel ready to fly, entirely happy, because you deeply understand that you love this person, they love you, and you suddenly have the shared energy, the profound connection, and the resourcefulness to conquer absolutely anything life throws your way. The friction hasn't disappeared, but you are finally stronger than the friction.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a direct, personal challenge. What is one small act of love you can do today without waiting for the feeling? Seriously, don't wait for the butterflies to magically reappear. Don't wait for your partner to make the first move or apologize first. Pick up the candies, order the sushi, buy the flowers. Create the action today and watch the feelings follow. Thanks for exploring this amazing concept with me. Take care and go start creating that spark.